Welcome back, everybody, to Music Talk. I know it's been a while. I've been a busy man. So we're back this week. We got a bunch of CDs coming up that we're going to do. So we're going to bug the crap out of you for the next month or two.
There you
go. So be ready. Well, this week we're going to do this. This isn't new anymore. It's been out for about 2 months now. And we've had it for a while. I just haven't had a chance to get to it. But this is Jack White's. It's called Entering Heaven Alive. Back of the CD looks like this. Mm-hmm. Got some, I guess it's got some meanings to some of these pictures in here. The CD itself looks like this. It's kind of like the inside of the booklet. Every page has got this blue and white V here.
Right.
So, of course, you got all the words. And I'm guessing that's Jack there with an apron on. And then you got this picture here on the inside of a bunch of kids in the woods. It looks like, there's the mom, I guess, on the side there. I'm not really sure what the pictures mean, whether it's something to do with entering heaven. I really don't know. Still got all the words. You got all the people that played on it here. Mm-hmm. And then the back of the CD looks like that. So, or the back of the cover looks like that. Interesting record. I gotta say, I really like it though. Now, we did the Fear of the Dawn, what, 6 months ago, maybe? Might have been a little longer than that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So this one is completely different than that one. I gotta say. It's like almost complete opposite. Because, Fear of the Dawn was more electric electric guitar oriented, a lot of heavy guitar playing on that one. And this one here feels like it's more laid back, a little more acoustic driven, maybe. Mm-hmm. I see why he did it, because he talked about when he put the other one out that he had more songs, but he wanted to make the albums work with themselves.
Right.
And the Fear of the Dawn album, all those songs work together well. And I think he did the same thing here. I mean, it's really, he put it together well. If you start going through the songs and kind of read through some of the lyrics and stuff, it's kind of, it's not really a concept record, but it flows well, I think. Mm-hmm. First four songs were a little different than the last 6 or so, I think. But anyway, we'll go through them real quick. So the first one is A Tip From You to Me, which was an interesting song. To me, it sounded a little bit like a Neil Young song, like Neil Youngish kind of,
Well, yeah, that kind of approach. It also had gosh, I'm trying right on the tip of my tongue now. Can't think of his name, but it did follow. It followed a lot of the folk type stuff.
Yeah,
and yeah, I really liked it.
it was a good way to start the record.
Yeah, I was just shocked when it first came on. I was like, okay.
Right. It's like,
and then the whole album kept going, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And then we get the song 2, which is All Along the Way, and it's kind of the same feel, right? You got same kind of feeling going on. To me, it sounded again a little bit like a Neil Young song at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then in the middle, it sounded like a Sublime or something. It went to this like reggae-ish type Sublime sound.
Yeah.
And they did this thing on here that they credit. It's called tic tac bass. You ever heard of tic tac bass?
Yeah, it's just the approach of playing it. It's a staccato type bass.
Well, I never knew what it was. I never heard of it. And then I looked it up, and it said it's some kind of 50s thing they did in the Nashville sound, where they took a 6-string bass and doubled it over top of the acoustic bass. I've never heard of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can call that tic-tac bass, I guess. To me, tic-tac bass is where they play really staccato, and a lot of times a bass player would pick up a pick.
Yeah.
If use an electric bass and do it.
That's what I was thinking when they said tic tac. I thought it was a pick, but I don't know. I guess it's some kind of doubling. I've never heard of it before. It was just interesting to me. But it was, he's got 3 different kind of basses credited on this song. He's got a ukulele bass, electric bass, and then the tic tac bass. So apparently it's a lot of bass in there, even though when you're listening to it, you don't really hear it that much. I guess it just kind of covers it all at the same time. I don't know.
I heard a lot of good low end on a few of these songs. I mean, I can't put my finger on which ones.
Yeah.
But there were some drum tracks that really had like a gong drum type sound going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Places, and I got to tell you, the production on this album was great. I mean, it was.
Yeah. I mean, you got the same Jack White production, man. I mean, him and a couple other guys are doing it, producing it and all, but it's still him basically, doing this stuff again, like the last one. And the last one I thought was produced well. And I like some of the older sounds he's getting out of it. It reminds me of stuff you would hear back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. He's going way back with some of this stuff.
Right.
Like number 3 here, we'll get to that. It's called Help Me Along. And I don't know how you felt about this, but to me, it reminded me of the Beatles. I heard a lot of Eleanor Rigby sounds in here.
Yeah. I heard that.
That Wurlitzer solo in the middle.
There's so many things I heard throughout all these songs. I mean, I didn't really keep good notes beside each song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of references, as far as being able to go, okay, well, it sounds like this, sounds like that.
Yeah. Well, this particular song he dedicated to Scarlett White, which is his daughter, I'm guessing. She's got a career too. Did you know that?
I think I heard something about that. Yeah.
Singer-songwriter. I haven't really heard anything by her, but I have heard that she's doing some stuff. So, but this had a guy named Fats Kaplan doing the violin and all the strings and stuff. They don't really credit a bass, but I'm assuming he's the same guy that played. I think he probably played a bass with a bow on it at some points, and then he went back to picking it. But I haven't even talked about the drummers on this. You got Ben Swank played drums on the first one.
Okay.
And then the third song, we now have a guy named Patrick Keeler. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's switching up. He's got 2 or 3 different drummers on here. And then, of course, he plays drums as well. So,
yeah.
But I'm not really sure. I've never heard much of these 2 guys, Ben Swank and Patrick Keeler, but I do believe they played on some of the first stuff too.
Yeah.
Dawn, so.
Well, I know he's got that one drummer. And I believe he's one of those 2 that you just mentioned. I've seen some things of him on YouTube where he's talking about discovering your own sound and stuff like that. And he sets up so weird. His playing is great, and the effects he gets, it's like, and that's what he's going for. He's going for the effects and the groove. He's not going for showcasing a bunch of flash dance like, Call You Eddie and people like that,
Right. He's got a great groove for sure.
Yeah.
So then we get to number 4. Love is Selfish. And this is basically just an acoustic ballad. And it reminded me of Bon Voyage from Zeppelin.
Yep. I was just going to say that the way he did it. And that's when we were talking earlier before we started recording, that's one of the references, I really feel like.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he got Jimmy Page's blessing on it because it sounds just like it's the same finger rolls and stuff.
It is. Even the it's all. I was like, man, that's it. I love it though. It's great, and the words are great. Again, I really like the feel of it. So then we get to number 5, and this is where I think the album takes a little change because you had a lot of acoustic stuff going on up to this point, and now we start to do. The 5th song is called I've Got You Surrounded with My Love. And this is what the album Fear of Dawn was more like. So this song here is what I was expecting this record to sound like too. This is a typical Jack White song here. You got a lot of stuff going on in the background. You got a guy named Daru Jones on drums on this one. But it's got that really great groove. It's got this great jazz feel about it. To me, it was really man, it was a lot going on. It had a great groove. You got Dominic Davis, who plays a lot of bass on this whole record. And then you got Quincy McCrary on piano. And to me, this is typical Jack White on
Yeah.
this.
Well, to me, it's got that smoky Roadhouse sound
Yeah.
to it. It's like, and then he starts that singing, and he's got, and again, I'm gonna get back to the production on it. I mean, he's got vocals bouncing from one channel to the next, and
Yeah.
he's got those girls in the background.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. I mean,
it's pretty awesome.
It is. And the way he puts this stuff together sometimes, man, I'm like, what is he doing? That is crazy, And some of the sounds he gets is just like I have no idea what instrument it is that's playing some of this stuff.
Well, and that's what I like about him. He's very experimental.
Yeah.
And I mean, he did a lot of that on his all his albums up to this
Yeah.
album right here. Every song he did was very experimental. I mean,
Yeah.
you
never knew what was going to come out of it,
Right.
This is
I
crazy.
mean, doing things like taking the audio amplifier out of a 1940s projector,
Yep.
and then you plug a guitar into it, and that's your amp.
Yeah. I mean, he really does go for some crazy sounds. And again, you hear these things coming through in the background. They're not real prominent, but you hear them. And you're like, what the heck was that? Or, it'll go by like this, and you're like, what was, I just missed that. What was that? So.
And see, I'm gonna hand it to him. He doesn't use any samples that I'm aware of. I mean, I haven't really heard anything that really resembled samples.
No.
Everything I've heard him do is kind of an experimental thing, and it's like he's sitting in his living room going, "Okay, I got to write this down. This is what we're doing on this one." No way. And now maybe he has to have one of those amps that'll emulate everything he does,
right,
for live performances. Because I can't see him hauling around all that stuff and putting it together. It'd be like Keith Emerson up there with the old Moog synthesizer, just patch cord and shit together and stuff.
Well, I was going to say that too. I was going to say, like Emerson, Lake and Palmer would sit around and bang on stuff until they got a sound that they wanted.
Right.
Whatever it was, if that's the sound they wanted, they used it, whether it was a trash can lid or a tambourine or something. Who knows? That's what they were looking for, and they put it on the record.
Yep.
He does that to me. That's the way it kind of feels like. He's just banging around on stuff, saying, "Wait, what was that? Plug this in. Oh yeah, let's do that." Weird. All right, then we get to number 6 is Queen of the Bees. And this one here, you got that typical walking shuffle. It's got some weird stuff again in the back. Mellotron and the Hammond going on here. And it sounds like he's got like a marimba maybe or a glockenspiel that's doing this thing. And it's all coming from one side. And then the other side, you got this weird.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
I know. But the whole feel of the song, though, to me was old school 30s.
Yeah.
Flappers type thing. It's like you can see these flappers getting out there dancing.
Yeah. I know.
Short skirts flying in the air.
It's crazy, man. I mean, here you got Patrick Keeler back on drums again. You got Dominic playing the upright bass this time. And it's it's this song takes you all, this album takes you all over the place. So you don't know what the next song is going to bring until you get to it. It's really weird.
Yep.
But I dug that one too. And then we get to number 7, which is A Tree on Fire from Within. And it starts out, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Tears for Fears Head Over Heels, the way the beginning is. But that's it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's not, But he plays the crap out of the bass on this song.
Yeah.
And that's
I gotta say,
doing it.
Yeah, I gotta say that I think a lot of the inspiration of the song, just from the title. I didn't really study the lyrics, but just the title of it. I mean, we have all these wildfires out here.
Yeah.
And stuff. And, the firefighters are always talking about, they still, even though a tree doesn't look like it's burning,
right,
still on fire within, inside. So they have to cut them down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a
So,
pretty good analogy of what's going on in this person's life, you know.
right, right,
So
and
this
yeah,
person's on fire within and need, could use some help or whatever.
yep, yep.
Um,
Like,
he's always pretty deep on his words too. Not
oh
only
yeah,
is he experimenting in his sounds, but he's always got some pretty deep words too. So, but again, great song. It's one of my favorites. And even in the middle there where it's doing that doom, 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 reminded me a little bit of Uncle Albert from McCartney
yeah,
or whatever that song. What was that song? What was it
yeah.
called?
Uncle Albert.
Yeah. So he goes into that doom, doom, doom.
Right,
So you're
right.
hearing a lot of Beatles references on this album to me as well. I mean,
Yeah,
it's got like Beatles, some Neil Young, some Led Zeppelin. I mean, you got all this in a 1920s or 30s jazz style,
I know, I know.
It's so
Yeah,
strange.
but see, the Beatles, they approached a lot of stuff like that too. Look at Sergeant Pepper's and Magical Mystery Tour and stuff. I mean, it was like it was just all over the map. I
Yeah.
mean, Revolver. I mean, they were.
And
It,
and I agree with you on this too, because some of these songs on this record remind me of that era of like Sergeant Pepper's
right, right, right.
because it's got those weird stuff going on.
Yep.
So I
And
feel he's definitely tapping into that on this record.
I don't blame him. I mean, you're thinking outside the box and you're going in those areas, and
Yeah.
it just stays fresh. It doesn't get old.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause you don't hear anybody else doing it.
No, you don't. I mean, he's definitely taken it past the boundary for sure.
Right, right, exactly. It's like, yeah, okay, let's go.
Yeah. And then we get to number 8 is If I Die Tomorrow, which is a very familiar sounding song, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But it's very familiar. And I know earlier you said something about Bowie. I
Hmm.
started thinking maybe this is some of that Bowie stuff that you were hearing in here. Um, this is all Jack White. The last song was all Jack. He played everything on that one and this one.
Hmm.
Um, he's got this weird sound on the second half of the solo, and I have no clue what that is. Again, it's like I don't know what he does, man. There's stuff. I mean, it's almost like he turns a blender on or something,
Yeah.
and whatever that sound comes out of the blender is what's coming through his amp. I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Well, like I say, I'm sure that he's got a bunch of stuff around. He probably spends half his time at flea markets buying cheap stuff,
Yeah,
and just plugging
plugging
it
it
in,
in.
and overloading it.
Yeah, I mean it's really cool too because I mean you can hear him going just to that edge, man, and then he pulls back, right? So
Yep.
it's crazy. And then you get to number 9, which is Please God Don't Tell Anyone, which to me 8 and 9 kind of seem like they're together. You know, If I Die Tomorrow and then Please God Don't Tell Anyone. They have almost the same feel, but not quite. Um, Here I'm getting another Beatle-ish type thing with the keyboard solo there. He's got that Mellotron again.
Mhm.
Um, I I love the very end when he's talking about his baby was sobbing, so I started robbing. And then after all that, he gets to that part where he says, "Please God, don't tell anyone," where his voice is scratching and breaking, and it sounds like he's in this very desperate spot. And I
Mhm.
mean, he just has a way of pulling that desperation out of his voice when
Right.
he's singing. It's like he's like on the edge, like he's getting ready to jump off of a freaking building, and
Hmm.
he's just crying out.
Yep.
And this
Yep.
song, he does that, and it's awesome, man. It's a great song. Uh, he had Bill Swank on drums on this one, and then the typical cast. So, but yeah, this one here, I think 8 and 9 kind of go hand in hand for me, which is why I kind of said it's not really a concept record, but you could almost think of it as that way because it's kind of building to this point.
Well, I mean, again, getting back to the Beatles, the way they did things, like, well, take Yellow Submarine, for example. Side one is actually all Yellow Submarine. Side two was just an orchestration of the whole thing with no lyrics or anything. It was just
Yeah,
it's like, okay.
yeah, yeah.
So they did one side, you know, he
And
just left the rest of it alone. It's like, okay, well,
it's kind of like what he's doing here. Like half the record is this, and now we're going to go do this. You know,
Yeah.
it's weird, man. I mean, I like it. I like it because it's weird. It's so original, man. It really is. So didn't get to number 10, A Madman from Manhattan. It's
Yeah.
hard to say. Madman from Manhattan. This has got a guy named Jack Lawrence on bass. So this one reminded me a lot of a Velvet Underground feel, like a Lou Reed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, because he's
Yeah.
kind of talking, singing a little bit through this, and it reminded me a lot of what you would hear from the Velvet Underground. But then the middle takes this very drastic change, and it takes you to a whole nother place, and then it goes right back to the beginning again, and it's like, man, it's again another great song, very strange. You know, Velvet Underground was strange anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I had a hard time getting into them when they came out, but
yeah,
now when I hear them, it's like, okay, yeah,
you kind of get it a little bit, you
got
know.
the picture a little better now, because I'm not listening to Blue Oyster Cult and Led Zeppelin all the time.
Exactly. Exactly. And I wasn't ever a big fan of Lou Reed's vocals.
Yeah.
So with Jack White's vocals on top of a Velvet Underground song, it's kind of cool, you know? Like earlier in the CD, I felt like you had some Beatles songs with Neil Young singing on it. And it's like
Right.
so
Right.
strange, you know? It's like a very strange mix.
Right. Well, yeah, talking about the Velvet Underground, Lou Reed, the thing he did, take a walk on the wild side.
Yeah.
That was actually about a transvestite girl
Yeah.
there in the San Francisco
Yeah.
movement. Uh, it it was. I remember when the song hit, and Dad, believe it or not, loved the bass line. He was like,
Great song.
"It is, it
Yep.
is."
Yep. We used to do that song before we went into Wild Side by Motley Crue. So we would start it out with the Velvet Underground or Lou Reed,
Lou
and we go
Reed,
straight into the Wild Side from Motley
right?
Crue. So it's pretty cool, you know, because the bass line's great. It's iconic. You can hear that. Boom, boom,
Well, I know,
boom.
I know.
Yeah. So yeah,
I
we
don't,
used to we used to do that too.
I don't think Dad knew what the song was about, though.
Probably not. But hey, when you hear something you like, you know, who cares, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, he's probably like me. I don't really listen to lyrics unless
Not
I have
many.
to.
When you're a musician, you don't really pay attention to the lyrics unless you're a singer,
Yeah.
you know. And I always try to explain that to people. They're like, you know, all these years you've been playing these songs and you don't even know the words. I'm like, I didn't sing.
Uh-uh.
I don't need to know the words. You know, I know a few words that I know when I hear them. It's about time for me to go do something else. But I
Right.
don't need to know how to, I don't need to know the words. So I never paid attention to the words, you know. So anyway, all right. So then we get to number 11, which is "Taking Me Back." Now this is actually a remake of a song on the other CD called "Taking Me Back" because the first song on Fear of the Dawn is "Taking Me Back."
Right.
So he just kind of redid it. That's why if you look on it, it says "Taking Me Back." What has he got written here?
Gently.
Gently. Yeah. So
It's a
"Taking
little
Me
bit
Back"
soft.
on this one is heavy and rocking.
Mhm.
You know, so here he takes it and he turns it into a swinging jazz song, and you know, reminds me of the 20s and 30s jazz
Yeah.
again, like you
Yeah.
were talking about with the Flapper Girls.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the violin sound on this is so great. I
Mhm.
love the way that violin sounds on this song. You
Yeah.
know, it had the great solo sections in there with the piano, the violin, and then you had that crazy sounding Spanish guitar.
Right. Right.
It was
I
like
keep, hearing him do this stuff. I keep waiting for him to pick up one of those, what do you call them? Things that the
a kazoo.
cheerleaders used to use to shout through,
Megaphone.
Well, it's like a megaphone, but it's not powered, it's just a cone.
Right.
I keep waiting for him to pick one of those up and do like a Winchester Cathedral type.
This they would have been perfect on this song too.
Yeah, it would have been.
He
That's
could
what I
have
was hearing. It's
like the
like,
last verse. He could have done it that way. That would
like
have been pretty awesome. Be kind of like what was that Beatles song where they did that? Uh,
oh yeah, god damn it,
you know,
yeah.
he did it. They did it in one of the Beatles songs. What they need a damn good walking. What was that?
Oh
Pigs?
yeah, that was on the White album.
White
Yeah,
album. Was it Pigs?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, at the end when
Yes.
George goes into that sound, that would have been great for this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the Beatles' political songs. All the little piggies.
And what's cool is some of these sounds on these pianos and stuff kind of reminds you of the White Album too, like even some of the George Harrison stuff that he's putting on here. So it's really weird. One thing I want to say about this last song, which is taking me back, the very last few seconds of the song are the exact same very first seconds of the one on Fear of the Dawn.
Oh yeah.
So if you listen to them back to back,
Uh-huh.
the last few seconds is exactly the same as the first. Like you could it's almost meant to go right into the other one. It's crazy. Pretty cool. I was really cool. I thought it was cool he did that because, well, he's always thinking. So he's like, let me do this. Even though Fear of the Dawn came out first, the last song on this one matches the first song on that one. So they're the two bookends, but they should be.
Yeah.
Exactly
Well,
like
I mean, it's a good market employee too, if you think about it.
yeah.
It's just like with me and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and stuff. I'm not happy with just one or two albums. I got to buy them and have the whole collection, because one album leads into the next.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, the album Houses of the Holy. That song wasn't even on the album.
Wasn't even on
It's
album.
on physical graffiti.
Right.
So you had to get physical graffiti to complete Houses of the Holy.
Crazy. It is a marketing strategy, like you said, man. I mean, that's just how you do it. You bought
But
this one, you like this one, you want to hear the rest, buy this one.
But the thing is too, and it's just like any of them, and whether they plan it out or you're just following their growth or whatever, it's just like the Eagles, for example. I want them from the very beginning up to a certain point. There's a certain point with the Eagles, I don't like their stuff.
Yeah.
Long Run was kind of the end of the line for me.
Right.
But, I mean, but my point is you got to have everything leading up to that point.
Yeah.
If not completing the whole collection, because to me, it's when I want to sit and listen to music, one thing that I wind up doing is I wind up going, okay, I'm going to do the Beatles, and I'll start with the very first album I got.
Yep.
And just go from there.
Yeah.
Whole damn day is Beatles.
Right. and you can do that, because everything's different. It's so different.
It doesn't get boring, and it's also different approaches. You hear the growth, and you hear the conclusions of different thoughts that they had on other albums. That comes to gets all tied in.
Yep.
All of a sudden, Yep. So I mean, whether it be a marketing employee, or just a coincidental accident.
Yeah. Well, this particular thing, I'm pretty sure he meant to do it, which I thought was cool because it's kind of bookends, but if you flip it, then you get it. So you got to flip it because it's Jack White, man.
Right.
It's going to make sense. That's what makes it so great. So,
well, anyway. That's why you got to have people like that.
Right.
Because they make you think. It's not dumb.
It's very original. Very original.
It's yeah, it makes you think. And when you're listening to it and you're going, wow, okay, that's kind of outside the box here.
Pretty cool. I know, right? So, well, I gave this one an 8.6 because again, I think it's a very great record. I think it's unique, it's original, and it has all the elements that you would like. I don't particularly care for the album cover at all, so I'm not going to give him anything for that. But the CD itself, I think, is fantastic. So I'm giving it an 8.6 on this one.
I love it. Yeah, I got to go right along with you. I'm gonna be 8.6 on it too.
Yeah,
I just love music that's going to make me sit and think and go, what is this guy doing?
Yep. And you got to listen to it a few times, man, to catch everything that's going on in there. So,
yeah, I mean, what he's done is he has created a little niche that he's got going on, and he creates sounds on top of writing songs. And you sit there, and it's not just listening to the lyrics and to the melody, but you're hearing all this other stuff, and it's like, how in the hell is he doing this? You know, it's like,
Crazy. I
yeah,
know.
and
Crazy.
but that's what it's about, is creativity, you know, and
Yeah.
it's why a lot of times with artists like him, I'm sure that when he does shows, that there are certain songs that he'll do from each little segment of his career.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any way in hell that he could walk on stage and be prepared to do this in the last album that he did, and also pull out the stuff that he did as the White Stripes
Right.
at the same time.
Right.
You know, it would take a major change on stage to get that to happen.
A major mentality change too. I mean,
Yeah,
so
yeah. But yeah,
that
I
go
think it
into
would
that
take
persona,
yeah, it's yeah, I'm giving it 8.6. I
Yep.
can't. I mean, production on it was great. Drum sounds were great. Everything all across the board, you know.
Yeah.
Just
It's
I
a weird CD cover. It's got weird images in there. Maybe somebody can enlighten us on it. Maybe Jack can get on here and tell us what was on his mind with some of these pictures. But go out and get it. Jack White, Entering Heaven Alive. It's a super cool record. Very unique. Changes from song to song pretty much. I mean, there's a couple of times when you get a little bit of the same, but you don't know what the next song is going to bring, man. And he gives it to you. So, you know. So I gave it an 8.6. Mike gave it an 8.6.
Yep.
Y'all got to check it out.
Check it out. You won't be sorry.
Stick around. We're going to do another one. We're going to do a real quick Billy Idol EP. So click on that one next.
I ain't changing shirts.
Yeah, we're not changing shirts. We're going to keep the shirt. Got to keep the shirt. I'm sporting the Seahawks today.
Hey, they won tonight.
6-3 right now.
Yep, I know.
All
Damn
right. Well, until next time, y'all, stay safe.
That's right. Peace out. Listen to the music.